Teitelbaum and Philip Martin, two professors who thought about this question. You know, their conclusion looking at temporary worker programs throughout the ages is that they always result in permanent settlement. People eventually marry, people stay over illegally, people qualify for asylum, people find an employer who sponsors them. All of these things happen in every society. There's an amnesty at some point. It's not that no one ever goes back, and in the first year, lots of people go back, and they may go back the second year and the third year, but over the years, whenever you have a temporary worker program from a poor country to a rich country, it always results in some significant share, 20 to 60% settling in the rich country permanently. And what I don't like about that is that then the whole thing seems dishonest. You're talking about a temporary worker program. You're telling the public, in effect, that we're going to have a program that's not going to result in permanent settlement, when every place that's ever tried it, whether Turks in Germany, North Africans in France, Pakistanis in Britain, the old American Bracero program, the list goes on, it always results in permanent settlement. So not everyone. Obviously, people do go back. So that's a really important point. And obviously, when you have skill-based temporary worker programs, the hope is you're getting the best and the brightest. But no research tends to bear that out. In general, these are pretty average or below average workers, which is something that we've been hearing a lot about. They just don't, temporary worker programs don't seem to work in the way that they're intended, and they don't result in what they're supposed to result. And that's why people say, you know, there's nothing as permanent as a temporary worker. So.
But the basis is in the promise initially that these workers would go back. I think the idea would be that we want people who are economically successful, and if they come back again and again and are used again and again, then they are economically successful. They are not likely to be unemployed and so on, except if they are the kind of temporary workers that pick berries in California. And therefore, I think we should talk about agricultural temporary workers, seasonal workers, versus the kind of person that I'm talking about.
But doesn't your own research suggest that most people in the sort of middle income group or the lower income group are going to be barely any kind of a fiscal benefit, right? In America, for example, you have to have a household income of about $70,000 a year before you're a fiscal benefit, on average, in general, at all the various federal, state, and local levels. And it's sort of true the same thing in Canada. So if you're getting more middle-of-the-road people, there can still be a fiscal problem. And if you're getting unskilled people, then it's a really big problem, even though they work. As I tried to explain in my research, I find huge problems among working immigrants in terms of their use of social services and then their relatively low tax payments. The holding of full-time employment doesn't avoid the fiscal costs. And that's clearly true in Canada as well. There are lots of other considerations. Fiscal costs don't have to be your only one.
You forgot one very important temporary worker, those who harvest the BC bud, the marijuana crops. That seems to be the economic engine of British Columbia. Anyways, that wasn't the point I was going to raise. Mr. Grubel, you're worried about foreign doctors treating you who are not up to Canadian standards. Well, you should be worried, and we could all be worried, because if you go into any urban hospital, teaching hospital, you will find yourself being treated by foreign visa trainees. These are doctors who've graduated from Saudi Arabia or Libya or Egypt, who are being sponsored by their countries to complete their medical training in Canada. They are not assessed before they go into our hospitals as residents. They do not have to write the exams. So there you are in emergency, and before you know it, you're being treated by a foreign doctor who has not passed the exams. On the other hand, international medical graduates who have immigrated to Canada, foreign doctors from elsewhere, before they are even allowed to apply to become a resident in a hospital, must pass a series of at least 2 or 3 exams. Then these IMGs, that's what they're called, international medical graduates, whose immigration has been expedited to Canada because of a shortage of doctors. They've written the exams. They prove they're up to Canadian standards because they have to follow these crazy courses and pass them. They go to apply to become residents, and there's no space. And it's not a coincidence that in Ontario alone there's 1,200 IMGs who are qualified and ready to go into the resident program, and there are almost the same number of foreign resident visas from Saudi Arabia, Libya, etc., who are taking these positions. So yes, we are being treated by non-qualified doctors in the hospitals. You're right. And there's never a danger that an immigrant doctor is not qualified who can treat you.
Let me just say, I don't have any problems. I'm sleeping with a doctor every night. My wife's a doctor. No.
But that's beside the point.
You misunderstood me. I was just suggesting that the idea that our medical associations have standards that are too high and are responsible for excluding all these qualified people which overnight would solve our doctor shortage problems. I'm saying it is an illusion because, and here's a young man who has got lots of experience in it, most of them simply are not qualified for that job. And as far as the IMG, the people are concerned, at least they're working under very close supervision in the hospital.
No, the foreign... No, the IMGs are not getting into the hospitals. It's the foreign visa trainees that are getting into the hospitals without writing the exams.
Okay, you know more about it than I do.
Yeah, they're supervised.
Yeah, I work at the Hill. These people are not, they are outside of our residency program, training programs. These are extra bodies that are paid for by their governments to be trained by us. So, I mean, what you're saying is not true.
Sorry, it is true. My daughter and son-in-law just went through medical school and in the residency program, and they said they're Libyan, the teams, of course they are. And by third and fourth year at University of Manitoba Medical School, the head resident was a Saudi Arabia foreign visa trainee.
I think please join me to thank our two speakers for this excellent presentations.